Joining us now from Washington is Behnam Taleblu of the Foundation for Defense of Democracy in Washington, D.C., a think tank that recommends hardline Iran policies. Sir, welcome to the show. What did you make of President Rouhani's statement?
Thanks for having me, and great to be with you. I think Rouhani was a bit out of his comfort zone here. Rouhani and Zarif, Iran's foreign minister, usually prefer to win at major diplomatic international arenas. They prefer to keep America divided from the international community. Here they had to strike a tone much like Iran's former president, Ahmadinejad. The tone was intransigent. It cast America as a bully. It cast Europe as weak, and it cast Iran's regional neighbors as dependent. And it's just one of the measures of success, if you will, of this max pressure campaign, of this U.S. attempt to press Iran to come to the table, because it's negotiating very publicly with lots of evolving talking points, and it's negotiating with its actions in the region and with respect to the nuclear deal.
Well, what you describe as a success of this U.S. administration's maximum pressure approach, some might say is a failure because it hasn't achieved any of its goals. Tehran isn't caving in. The Gulf region, tensions there have never been as high in recent years. Many of the stakeholders are actively trying to find a resolution. So what's the game plan here?
Well, that is the game plan, that there is no way out but through, that unless Iran realizes genuine engagement driven by a genuine change in the regime's behavior, unless that actually happens, that there will be no way out of the crisis for the Islamic Republic.
But it's not working, sir. So is it time to reconsider?
The blueprint for this, but the blueprint for this is not the nuclear negotiations. It's to allow these sanctions to do what they've been doing, which is to force Tehran to choose. And Tehran has chosen the path that shows that there really is no difference between the Ahmadinejad administration or the Rouhani administration, that when pressed, the Islamic Republic is going to act like the rogue that the Trump administration has said that it is. And now the Europeans are even saying that. Now, even Federica Mogherini of the EU is saying that the JCPOA cannot last in this form. And even the E3 is pointing to Iran's drone and cruise missile strikes.
But there
so
is
this transatlantic gap that Rouhani and Zarif tried to create.
You saw French President Emmanuel Macron making an effort to get the two leaders, the U.S. and Iranian leader, trying to get them to speak. Now, of course, we've heard from the Iranian leader addressing the UN General Assembly. There did seem to be an opening there, saying that if the conditions were right, i.e. if sanctions were lifted against Iran, that could pave the way to talks. Now, that is encouraging. I don't know if it's realistic. I don't know if it's realistic, but it is encouraging. I'm just wondering, I mean, how do you expect Tehran to negotiate with a gun to its head?
Well, looking at the past 40 years of the history of the Islamic Republic, that's only when the Islamic Republic changes a key national security objective. No one is saying that ballistic missiles, terrorism, the foreign and security policy and conduct of the Islamic Republic, no one is saying that Iran doesn't covet these things. But we're saying that these things can be negotiated away when there is pressure. Because if there is no pressure, then there is no incentive for Tehran to divest itself from terrorism, no incentive to divest itself from the nuclear quest. The only time Iran has changed, like the end of the Iran-Iraq war, given up on a fundamental national security prerogative, is when there is pressure. And it's ironic that Rouhani says that if all the sanctions are waived, then Iran will negotiate. Because then what is there to negotiate over? A broader deal? Well, if there are American sanctions all given away, then what leverage does America have to negotiate that broader deal? It's kind of a circular logic that Iranian officials are weaving.
But again,
and they're actually at this UNGA, unlike 2013, when Rouhani came in quite strong and was able to pick apart the international community. And even 2017, under President Trump, he was able to pick apart the international community. Now the Iranians haven't been able to do that.
Question. The pressure, the campaign, the maximum pressure approach has not yielded any result. Tehran
on
is
what basis
digging
are you,
in.
On what basis are you saying that?
It's not giving.
That's a little ironic. So let's. So you're taking a Polaroid approach to the problem as opposed to the camcorder approach to the problem. The Iran-Iraq War is the example here. That war was 8 years. For the first 7.5 of those 8 years, the founding father of the Islamic Republic, Ayatollah Khomeini, said war, war, war until victory. His goal was regime change in Baghdad. That was not a Bush administration initiative. That was first a Khomeini initiative. But once Iran was defeated on the battlefield, once through a series of economic issues and military issues, the country realized that there was no way out but through. It had to settle for a suboptimal solution. So the goal here is to pressure Iran to keep the pressure consistent and growing, consistent and growing.
Thank you so much for providing us with your perspective. Behnam Ben Taleblu of the Foundation for Defense of Democracy in Washington, D.C.
Thank you.